the first thing to that, that would go against decades of behavior. Decades of behavior upon the Lakers' part.
Totally true.
They are a superstar-driven franchise.
I agree.
Secondly, to trade LeBron somewhere like Utah or Portland would go against that behavior as well. Because there's no way they would ever trade LeBron unless they got sign-off from him. There's no way they would ever trade LeBron because it goes against how they operate. This is the same family. This is the same family that Dr. Buss.
Before you go on, I did not say the Lakers are considering it. I said if I were the Lakers, 100%. I would be making these calls.
Okay.
So I'm asking you, if you're JJ, based on what I broke down about the team and what they got and what they don't have, what do you do?
What gets me to my next point, which is basically, if you're a team looking to trade for LeBron James and you're going to give up all your young players like Miami, you mentioned Bam Adebayo. Not all of them. You think that getting LeBron James and giving up Bam makes Miami closer to winning a championship?
They might.
No. Cleveland. Jared Allen, Darius Garland, those guys, that's what they're building for the future. Everything you're talking about is teams essentially operating the way the Lakers have operated for decades. Teams don't want to operate that way anymore, and that's the problem with the Lakers. They have refused to modernize how they operate, and we've seen it. The last 10 years, they've been in the playoffs 3 times. Only once did they get out of the first round, and that was in the bubble, 2020. The idea that they're going to bring in Phil Jackson to help with the coaching search, given his record as an executive in New York and with the hires he made, again, it's a pattern of behavior. We talk about it all the time, the pattern of behavior. It fits in their pattern of behavior. Other teams are not going to fall susceptible to that. So no, I think this is a crazy take. This is a crazy take.
But JJ, you don't like the roster, though. We've talked about that. You said it's poorly built.
I agree with him 100%. This team is going nowhere.
Yeah.
And trading LeBron, you're not going to get anything back where you're going to say,
Mad Dog,
we're going somewhere.
I generally agree with everything JJ said. First off, LeBron's not going to, you can say he's got no trade. He doesn't want to go, they're not going to trade him. So we got Harden, he bailed out, Irving bailed out. The no trade thing means nothing. He's LeBron James. He doesn't want to go to Miami or Cleveland, and I agree. I don't think those two franchises want him. They've already won with him. Why would they want to go back there? They're building pretty good teams. So he's not going to those two spots. And the other thing is, you are tied in with Davis and Westbrook. This is your team. Well, you're going to trade LeBron, you're never going to get anything equal value. You're going to get nothing back of note. And then you're going to have Davis and Westbrook sitting there, and they're not going to be able to win by themselves anyway. So it's a disaster. No matter how you handle it, it is a disaster. Because until you get Davis and Westbrook out, you're not going to be a good team. So you might as well have LeBron in the ball club. And by the way, about Phil Jackson. All right, listen, I didn't like Derek Fisher either. He wanted Kerr. Kerr knew the better team was in Golden State, so he went to Golden State. He knew the roster was bad. You're telling me that Phil Jackson can't help them pick a head coach? He loved Lou. He coached for him. I have no problem with Phil Jackson. As long as he's not picking the players, I have no problem with Phil Jackson.
I would say this to you. Again, I'm not saying this is not breaking news about what the Lakers are thinking because I don't know.
No.
What I'm saying what I'm saying is if it's me, because of how dire my situation is, the one asset I have is a superstar at the age of 37 who may play 2 or 3 more years tops, who, by the way, has something to do with those players being there. I might use him to help get rid of them. Not to mention the fact that he's got 1 year left on this deal. If they offer him an extension and he says no, that means after next year, he can walk away without them getting any compensation. And then what do you have? If you're the Los Angeles Lakers, if you're Jeannie Buss and Linda Rambis and Kurt Rambis and especially Rob Pelinka, since he's the guy that's going to be making these decisions, I'm saying you got
to get up. I'm starting.
You guys were really entertaining in that A block, by the way. Really just enjoyed that first segment.
Well, we appreciate that, JJ.
It was great.
I didn't antagonize you a little bit. I was doing that on purpose.
We'll get to
it. Is this a good idea, Stephen A., that you think the Lakers are involving Phil Jackson in the process as they hire their next head coach?
If they were looking for a new general manager or a new president of basketball operations, I would call the Los Angeles Lakers franchise the biggest idiots on the planet. Because Phil Jackson should never be allowed to be an executive again. a matter of fact, I'm still so salty about the job he did in New York. I'd prefer that he be banned from New York. I don't think he should be allowed in the state. That's how bad of a job he did. I just think Frank Ntilikina is who he drafted instead of Donovan Mitchell. Just don't get me started with this dude. I don't even want to hear about Phil Jackson, the executive. The coach is an entirely different matter. Now, I know he hired Derek Fisher when he first got at the Knicks coach, but he wanted Steve Kerr. And obviously, Dolan got in the way of that. We know how great Steve Kerr is, one of the great coaches of all times. He's just proven that. There's nothing to debate. But I want to veer left.
Okay.
Because I have something that I want to say to Doggy. And JJ Redick, I specifically, because Doggy and I were supposed to do this segment, I specifically requested that you be in this segment. Okay. Because I have an announcement I'd like to make.
What's that?
It is involving LeBron James. Doggy, JJ Redick, I want to announce to the American public that I think the Los Angeles Lakers should strongly consider trading LeBron James. That is what I believe. Now, a lot of people are going to lose their minds because the brother's 37 in his 19th year, and he just averaged 30 and all of this other stuff. And if the team was better, he would have been a league MVP candidate without question. This is not throwing a speck of shade on LeBron James in case he's watching, which he'll try to deny it, but he's watching, okay? I'm telling you right now, it's no shade at all. It's a testament to his greatness, and it's a compliment to him that I'm saying this is what the Los Angeles Lakers should consider. The Los Angeles Lakers, as presently constructed, are going nowhere. Russell Westbrook clearly lost something. Do I think that he'll make amends and come back to some degree next year? Probably, but we don't know. So entering last year of his deal, making $47 million. I know for a fact by numerous executives I've spoken to, you can't get but so much value for Anthony Davis because he's perpetually injured and he's not reliable health-wise. We know how big time he is as a player, JJ. When he's healthy, when he's not, but when he gets injured all the time. Here we go with LeBron James. He's the only person that has extreme value, that you'll never get equitable compensation for his greatness. But it's the only chance you have to be immediately respectable if you're the Los Angeles Lakers. First, we got to take into account what we're looking at in the Western Conference. We got Phoenix, they ain't going nowhere. We got Golden State. You see these brothers, they here and they going to be here for a while. We got Dallas with Luka leading the way, okay? Nico and Jason Kidd doing an outstanding job. I think they're a piece for being those legit title contenders, okay? We got that going on. Kawhi and Paul George will be back. Minnesota is on the rise. Memphis is here, okay? We got all of these things. I'm giving you 6 teams in the Western Conference, and let me not forget New Orleans. And if Zion Williamson is healthy, I mean, my God, what New Orleans could potentially do. So we got all of that going on. You the Lakers, where you going? You got nothing. So here's what I'm going to tell you they should do. Are you ready for this? I thought, and don't get too specific, JJ. I don't want you pulling out numbers and contracts. We understand they got to work things. They got to make things work. And we got all of that.
Let's hear it.
Picks, all this stuff. I'm just going to throw the teams that I'd call. If I'm the Lakers, I'm calling Cleveland because they got some young talent. JB Bigstad going to be. I'm calling Cleveland. I'm going to Cleveland with some of their young talent, okay? And the brother is from Akron. You're ready to win the championship, deliver the championship. I mean, he's LeBron in Cleveland. I'm calling Cleveland. I'm calling Miami because they got some, I mean, you talk about Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, they got some young talent. And you know, so I'm calling them. I'm calling Utah. Donovan Mitchell, you want out? D-Wade, a little minority owner up in there in Utah. I'm calling Utah. I'm calling, listen, of course.
LeBron James and his family?
Let me finish. He doesn't have a no-trade clause. They eradicated that. You know what I'm saying? He might not want it, but guess what? Unless he's going to retire, you don't make those calls anymore. You got Portland, Dame Lillard. I'm making these calls. I'm saying if I'm the Lakers.
You're going to trade him for Damian Lillard.
No. I'm taking all options. All I'm doing is throwing out teams for you. Because if I'm the Lakers, I know I ain't going nowhere. What I got to do is prevent from falling off the cliff entirely and completely stinking up the joint for years to come. Because the reality is that I can't move Russ in all likelihood. I'm going to try, but I don't think I can pull it off. Anthony Davis, I can't get equitable compensation because everybody is telling me he's too injured, so we're not going to give up a piece for a dude that's missed half the season 2 years in a row.
Right.
So if I got that, all I got is LeBron. So LeBron's greatness, his box office appeal. If you got a team that says,